I am so excited to present to you the Book of Blue. This began as an experiment to see if I could find some blues that I really like. Because while I've been hanging out with fountain pens for almost 5 years, thanks to the pandemic, I quickly started ditching any colors that you could find in a regular pen. So pretty much I found my black. I have used it ever since day one. I found a couple blues, but nothing really jumped out at me. And I realized I'm probably missing out on a ton of stuff. So this video is dedicated to 2 people in the Pen Addict Slack who sent me a handful of blue samples just out of the kindness of their hearts. And I got to run through all of them and do a box spread. Now the parameters of my exercise was just to pick a blue as I went that I really liked. For many of them, I tried to swatch them. For many of them, I started out with a glass dip or a Kakimori steel dip pen, but there just wasn't enough control. And so I quickly shifted to a Bennu Euphoria Schmidt nib, which was a medium, and it was wonderful. One of the things I was surprised to learn is just how much ink can come from just a single dip. So towards the end, literally, I would just dip the pen, and then that gave me enough for the whole spread. On the other side of things, sometimes I would pull through just to fill the feed, and since I took the converter out eventually, there'd be ink in here, even when it was just the feed that was full. So if you find yourself trying out a pen, truly just a dip can probably get you through half a normal page or 2 of these pages. So let's look at the Book of Blue. What I did is as I wrote the words, I used a different blue for each word. I think that'll be a cute way to remember it. Here's our first page, Troublemaker, Milky Ocean. This was the first blue that I got that really jumped out at me and opened my eyes. And it was such a neat twist of fate because I was just getting into fountain pens and I was on Reddit and someone said they just wanted to pay it forward, send them $20 and they'll send you a sample of like all their favorite 7 inks, just a random assortment. And I was totally new to it and it just so happened I got lucky and this one was one in there. So we've got a really unflattering selfie, a muffin and coffee, some gems. I started experimenting with outlines. And this is a stuffed animal that I have in my office. Oh, I guess as far as ink traits, I find the shading for this one is just extraordinary. I love it. It has a bubble pink shade. It feels like writing with a beautiful rain cloud. And I would say this is on the drier side, but doing this experiment had me put it in an M nib instead of what I usually put it in, which is a stub or a zoom. And I was really pleased with what that looked like. So I think this was wetter than I remember it being. Next up, we have Iroshizuku Shinkai, which I liked. Maybe just a little bit of shading. We've got a dragon, jellyfish. Tried to work on hatch marks a lot. And I found this one to be okay. I don't know if it blew my mind. Same with Sailor Shimoya. Got some stalactites and stalagmites over here, some patterns and florals. And you can see with the heaviness of some of the lines that I was going back and forth between glass nib, steel nib, all that, until I finally settled into using the M nib. We've got one of our first surprises that I really enjoyed, which is jaku, which is at Iroshizuku. I just love the teal shading. And then the ultimate fan favorite, which was also my favorite and my kid's favorite, gyoku. The Iroshizuku, which is even tealer. We've got a bear and some crutches. This was a little animation that I saw online and drew. This I just made up too, I think. Robert Oster representing with a lot of shading and sheen with Robert Oster Carbon Fire. This is, I believe, was a part of the original pack of blues that I got, of inks that I got in that exchange. And this was immediately a favorite of mine. And probably in no small part because it is just the perfect match for my 1911 L Sailor Stormy Seas. It's the best. So we got my husband, a deer that was in the parking lot, more of my cat, my kids at a jumping park. All right, and so this was also one of the first ones in this pack and set that really jumped out at me. I think it's because it's really similar to Milky Ocean. But I found myself really liking this. This is one of the samples I'll keep for sure. And the variation in lightness and darkness, again, that's just because I was going back and forth with the nib and figuring things out. I did like the brightness of this and how it popped, but I think this takes me closer to what you can get in a standard ballpoint or gel pen. So I don't know if it really rocked my world. But I drew, this is an illustration from Exploding Dog. Exploding Dog was one of my favorite artists in the early internet. And this is one of my favorite drawings. I haven't been able to find it online if I want to credit them. Ackermann's Dutch Master Cerulean. I thought this one was really impressive too. I really liked it. So the cats are mine. This motif actually comes from my favorite kind of tea. And I just love the boxes because they have these beautiful illustrations for the different kinds of tea that I cut off each time. And it ends up being these really cool patterns that I can try to emulate. I don't know what I'm going to do with those yet, but I do love them enough to keep them around. And this illustration in the corner is from a chocolate bar that I got while I was in New York City. And I just kept it because I loved that little picture. I think this was a beautiful ink and it felt good to write with, but I don't know. I don't think it makes the cut for mind bending. Next, we've got one that really is a close match to 54th Massachusetts, but I did like it a lot. It's a very saturated, beautiful dark blue, and it is Tokyo Denim. You can see this is where my lines start to stabilize a little bit because I start using the menu. Another one that really jumped out at me, you can tell I have a thing for these kind of blues, but I found this one to be really nice, and this is Van Diemen's Native Cornflower. This was me mimicking some kawaii style comics, just drawing things around me. This was also a card with a cat on it, so it's not mine. Then I picked up a dark one because I could tell I was going a little bright. And this is Colorverse, a Aquarii. Wow, something like that. And it had a really deep purple kind of sheening look to it. It was interesting. I don't think I like sheeners. I like how they look. I love how they look. But every single one I've tried ends up smearing so badly and not drying for long periods of time. So I don't think it's for me for now. Next up, this was another one that made me go, ooh. I am just into Atramentis. I don't know. It's something about the way they do it. This is indigo blue and just the clear, decisive lines, not too much shading. Really love this. Especially over here, once my shading and hatching got so much more even, it became really enjoyable. I find Atramentis to be very wet, so do that with that what you will. And this is actually a mystery ink because, and now it looks so green. I thought it was Robert Oster Muddy Water, but when I did some research, it seems like it might be Muddy Swamp, but the bottle wasn't labeled. So this mystery is going to live on with us. Maybe I'll zoom in here for just a second in case we have any ink sleuths who can help me out with that. And really, a lot of my creativity came out when I hit the bottom of the barrel, because this one became just frog and beans. Why not? That could be a new YouTube channel. Next up, another Atramentis, which I really liked, which was Fog Gray. Looks a lot like Massachusetts 54th again. And towards the end, I do feel like I started to feel like I had to force it. So you'll see more patterns come out. So it's working through the boxes. It was still a really fun experiment, but I'm going to take a break from this. Another one I was surprised to really is Van Diemen's Base Strait Cobalt with the Denim. And it just pops in this really cool way. Jaku. Again, my hatching on the cats. It's really improved over time. We've got some kind of wizard surrounded in flames holding a crystal ball. Next up, we got Tsuki. I was very pleased with this one too. This is me trying to draw the Lola Young cover and then the Aura cover for What Happened to the Heart. Lots of pattern. And another one that super jumped out at me, I really like this one, was Sailor Yonagi, which it's bugging me because I really like this. I really like Sailor Raikuchi. But when I got the limited edition Sailor Glass Jade or Sea Glass, it's so dry. I haven't liked it in anything, even this pen. So I'm wondering why these were so wet and the green was so dry. For this one, I started pulling from some books. I have this really cool book called Drawn to Life by one of the original Disney animators. And it's all about figure drawings. I am not good at anatomy or figures yet, but I did try to just recreate some of the stuff that he had in that book. Some of the faces. And then this was almost a practice in perspective. Fence. Again, I just love how box spreads, especially tiny ones, it breaks up your practice in these tiny pictures. That lets you put so much detail into it. Getting towards the end, this is one that I had on the shelves. This is Iroshizuku, the 100th anniversary Ebisu. This is me drawing my dad, cat, picture of me. Another one I have on the shelf, Tesla Coil. And again, just such a high sheener. I'm worried, like, even looking at this page, it's going to smudge. And I've heard there's a great one from Ink Institute called Snow Shadow, something like that. And it's this exact thing, but very stays in place. So I'm really intrigued by that. This is Tesla Coil by Birmingham Pen Company. And then Cioro, I also had this, like I own it, and then it was also in the pack, so I decided to do that. And at the end, I threw in a bonus. I have a bunch of Atramentis. This is the Cyan. And it got back to being thicker because I used the glass nib, but it was so uncontrollable and unreliable that I switched back to the Bennu. So this one is like a combination of everything. And that is it. That's the Book of Blue. It took about a month and a half of real effort to get it done. I could be talked into doing another one. I have enough pinks that I might do a book of pink, but I'm definitely going to take a break and go back to my regular book because I miss just writing with any pen and any image and any ink that I like. And so the lack of flexibility here, it just made it more of an experiment. So it was fun, but I'm going to practice the other thing for a little bit. Do you have a color that I should pick? Let me know. Right now, I'm stocked on enough pinks to do it, but for another color, I'd need somebody to send me samples. So keep that in mind. Thanks for tuning in.